Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin is perfectly bouncing from this exact area of support in the short term, which means this Bitcoin trading strategy is continuing to make very easy profits in the market right now. So I'll be sharing this and sharing exactly how I'm planning to make very easy money right now from the next Bitcoin move about to happen very soon. I'll be talking about that in just a moment here in this video, while the price of Bitcoin is now retesting a crucial level on the price chart, as it's just now been exposed that BlackRock and other ETF providers have been dumping Bitcoin on the market over the last few days, which I'll talk more about in just a moment, while the price of Ethereum is also now perfectly bouncing from this exact area of support here in the short term, while the price of XRP is also now bouncing from this exact area of support here in the short term. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, we need to talk about the Bitcoin news today, because we now have the numbers for the Bitcoin ETF inflows and outflows over the last few days. Of course, throughout this week so far up until Thursday, we have the numbers up until Thursday, and especially on Wednesday and Thursday, we saw net outflows from the spot Bitcoin ETFs, which basically means investors that held the ETF shares like IBIT, the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, essentially sold those shares. In other words, they got their money out of the Bitcoin ETFs, which essentially means the ETF providers, like for example, BlackRock in that example, would have to sell the Bitcoin backing the ETF in order to effectively pay out those outflows, because these Bitcoin ETFs have to actually be backed by spot Bitcoin. They are spot Bitcoin ETFs. So when we see inflows, essentially the money coming into the ETFs, because the ETFs have to track the price of Bitcoin, anytime money comes into the ETFs, the ETF providers like BlackRock or Fidelity, etc., are having to use those inflows to buy Bitcoin. And then if we see outflows, it's the exact opposite. They basically dump the Bitcoin to essentially pay out the outflows to keep the Bitcoin backing essentially one-to-one for the ETFs to track the price of Bitcoin. And so obviously, at least so far, we haven't really seen the best week for the Bitcoin ETFs. The average day, in case you're wondering, is a net inflow of 135 million US dollars. Monday, we saw an inflow of 149 million. Tuesday, we saw a net inflow of 202 million. Wednesday, a net outflow of 470 million US dollars. And on Thursday, a net outflow of 488 million, almost $500 million, leaving the Bitcoin ETFs just on Thursday. And we could see that for the numbers on Thursday, 30th of October. Of course, the largest outflow on that day from a single Bitcoin ETF was, of course, the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, with an outflow of 290, almost 291 million US dollars, almost $300 million, leaving the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF just on Thursday alone, which essentially means BlackRock was having to dump that amount of Bitcoin on the market in order to effectively pay out those outflows. And so over the last couple of days, Wednesday and Thursday, this could have potentially contributed to some of the sell pressure with that short-term dump in the crypto market over the last few days, alongside, of course, this pullback in the stock market, which I covered in my last video. But with that being said, that's just a bit of Bitcoin news today to watch out for. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, the super trend indicator is still currently sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. And keep in mind, people here in this channel in the comment section were calling for a bear market right here. We're calling for a bear market here. We're calling for a bear market here. And all of these times over many years now, since basically the beginning of 2023, I've said this entire time, still in a bull market, still in a bull market. But there are periods during the bull market where we can see larger cool-offs, where the price is potentially within a larger correction or a larger sideways consolidation, but still possibly within an even larger bull market, a long-term bull market, which at least for now, that is the current situation. We have not currently confirmed otherwise. But of course, what is also confirmed here on the weekly Bitcoin price chart is a massive bearish divergence, which I've already been warning about for a long time now on the channel. You can check any one of my videos since basically months ago. I've been talking about the bearish divergence, but this bearish divergence only recently reconfirmed about just under a month ago, basically with the latest all-time high right here at the beginning of this month. We, of course, reconfirmed the bearish divergence with a new higher high in the price in the candle closes and a new lower high confirming in the weekly Bitcoin RSI, effectively extending the bearish divergence again, reconfirming the bearish divergence, meaning we're most likely going to be lacking bullish momentum, experiencing a larger slowdown, which means at best a sideways consolidation, quite possibly a larger pullback within the next few weeks or possibly months, kind of like what we saw possibly around February, March this year, or potentially around middle of 2024, for example, but not necessarily confirming the end of the bull market. And if we're taking a look at the daily Bitcoin price chart, we can see that right now, as of recording this video, the price of Bitcoin is currently retesting this previous ascending line of support, now acting as new resistance again, and that's sitting at just under 111,000, really in between 110.5k to 111k. Expect resistance around there as a very likely scenario, and so far we are starting to find a little bit of resistance around that area. And so obviously, as I mentioned recently here on the channel, if the price continues to hold underneath that line, that's a sign of weakness, at least in the short term, which also coincides with this weekly Bitcoin price chart playing out a larger bearish divergence, pointing towards weakness or a lack in bullish momentum for most likely a period of weeks, possibly a period of months. Once again, kind of like what we saw around mid-2024. We saw multiple months of weakness, lacking bullish momentum, but that was not necessarily the end of the larger bull market, even though a lot of people out there were saying that's the end of the bull market. Meanwhile, I was saying not necessarily the end of the bull market. We could still head higher later on in a few months. And so that is still the current situation. It's still playing out as expected on the larger timeframes. As I've been saying many times here on the channel, I've not changed really anything on the larger timeframes over the last few weeks. You can check any one of my videos over the last few weeks. I say the exact same thing every day if we're talking about the weekly time frame. Of course, if we're talking about the 4-hour chart, the 6-hour chart, this changes pretty much every few days because it's talking about the short term. But if we're talking about the bigger picture, this right here barely changes. So with that being said, taking a look at the short term, what is the current situation right now on the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart? And well, right now we've hit this exact support, and at least so far currently starting to bounce and have a slight reaction from this support, which was sitting in between roughly 106.5k to 107,000 based on this previous support right here. And also, as the price of Bitcoin started to run into that area of support, the RSI also was getting quite close to oversold. We didn't fully hit oversold, but perhaps on slightly smaller time frames, we did reach oversold here in the RSI, which is a sign that we're getting close to some sort of bounce or some sort of slight little relief in the price in order to reset the RSI back towards the upside, towards more neutral levels, which can possibly give us a little bit more room towards the downside again. So keep that in mind. Overall, we're not really showing a lot of strength in the price of Bitcoin, but at least so far, we are holding this area as support, which in the immediate short term is at least some good news. And we can see that so far, the price is still somewhat in a sideways price range, as we can see between this support roughly around here and this resistance roughly around here. The price basically since around 10th, 11th of October onwards has basically just been range bound within this range, in between roughly 106k to 116,000, that $10,000 range right there. Price is basically just bouncing around between support and resistance. And this is actually great news for my trading strategy that I've been sharing every day for 2 weeks now on the channel, which I'll talk about in just a moment. But for now, looking at potential points of resistance in case we see a continued little bounce here. Of course, as I said earlier, expect resistance at around 110.5k to 111k based on this line. But in terms of other short-term horizontal areas of resistance to watch out for here on the 6-hour Bitcoin price chart, expect resistance in between 111.6k to 112k, and major resistance in between 115.5k to 116,000, which of course was an area of resistance that I warned about here on the channel before we perfectly rejected from that area. And so with all of that being said, what is my trading strategy right now? How do I plan to make money from this Bitcoin market right now as we speak? And well, currently I'm still using the same trading strategy that I've been sharing very transparently, completely for free here on this YouTube channel every single day over the last 2 weeks now. And we can see that this is still making easy and passive profits in this Bitcoin market, no matter what the price really does in the short term. It doesn't matter if we're dumping or pumping. The beauty of this trading strategy is it continues to profit no matter what the price does, for as long as we eventually see some sort of slight bounce in the short term. So for example, even if we see a dump like this, for as long as we see a slight little bounce like this, the trading strategy makes profit. It only really loses if we see a straight line down in the price of Bitcoin all the way below around 42 to 43,000. If that happens, then this trading strategy would ultimately lose. But if that does not happen, if we see some sort of decent bounce in between, whether we see a massive dump and then a bounce, or a bounce right now, either way, if some sort of bounce happens anywhere in this range, then this trading strategy makes money. But of course, because it is a trading bot that currently holds a certain amount of Bitcoin, because of course it has sell orders automatically placed towards the upside, which means it has to hold some amount of Bitcoin right now in order to actually execute those orders if we bounce right now. Because of that fact, of course, if we see a dump, it could potentially go into an unrealized loss while it's holding Bitcoin and continuing to buy Bitcoin, hitting these buy orders towards the downside. But that's why I said earlier, if we see some sort of bounce, then it automatically takes profit. The moment we start seeing any little bounce right here, it triggers sell orders towards the upside to automatically buy low and sell high. And it's fully automated. I don't even have to really look at it. It's automatically running. I just set it up once and it's effectively a trading bot, fully automated passive profits. And so that's a quick update on my current Bitcoin trading strategy, sharing with you how I'm making easy profits and very passive profits in this Bitcoin and crypto market right now, while the price is just kind of range bound, bouncing around sideways. Obviously, if you're looking for long positions or short positions, this type of price action can potentially get you destroyed as you get wiped out in certain volatile moves like this. For example, if you're in a highly leveraged long or short, then those sort of moves can get you wiped out, obviously. But with a low leveraged grid bot like this trading strategy, it's perfect for this type of price action. As always, no guarantees, not financial advice. I'm just showing what I'm currently doing with my own money, sharing with you how I'm planning to make easy profits. It's totally up to you what you decide to do with your own money. But with that being said, if you want to copy my trading strategy, this exact trading strategy that I'm currently using, I will leave a link below this video. In fact, the second link below this video will take you to this page right here, where you can copy this trading strategy with a single click of a button. As you can see right here, just click copy the bot, copy the trading bot. And as you can see right here, it has been running for over 2 weeks now. I have been sharing it every day throughout that entire time here on this channel as well. And of course, you can see the profits very nicely here, fully transparent. But in order to actually copy this trading strategy, because I have it set up over on my Pinex account, of course, you will need to have a Pinex account set up, ready to go, using one of the links below the video. Unfortunately, if you don't use the link below the video to actually make your Pinex account, you can't actually copy this trading bot. The copy button simply will not work. And if you actually use the first link below this video to Pinex, that link will take you to this page right here, where you can also claim some massive bonuses just by simply making a Pinex account, completing KYC. You get a 50 USDT bonus onto your Pinex account. Or without even doing that, if you make a $100 deposit, you get a $100 bonus onto your Pinex account. If you deposit 10,000, you get a 1,000 USDT bonus onto your Pinex account. But these major bonuses right here are only available if you're using that first link below the video to actually make your Pinex account. And also, once again, you can only copy this trading strategy if you want to, of course, using that link below the video. If you don't use the link, unfortunately, you can't copy this trading strategy. But that's just a quick update on my current trading strategy, sharing with you how I'm planning to make very easy profits from this next Bitcoin move, no matter what the price does here in the short term within this range. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we can see that right now we still have a small amount of liquidity building above the price at roughly 116.5k, but most of the liquidity for the price of Bitcoin is below the price here in the short term, at basically the lows right here at roughly $106,000 per Bitcoin, slightly above 106,000, which means it's possible we could see a double dip in the price of Bitcoin to simply retest these lows, sweep the lows right here to take out that liquidity at give or take 106,000. So just be aware of that risk. It is possible we could see another double dip, and this might even be starting right now as of recording this video to come back down to wipe out that liquidity at roughly around these lows. And in that situation, if we actually break below around 106.5k, below this support, I would expect the next support based on this low right here at roughly 105.5k. So potentially expect a move like that in the short term very soon to head towards this short-term liquidity. And if you want to take long positions or short positions, manual trades on a no KYC exchange, personally for those sort of things on a no KYC exchange, I like to use 2bit as an exchange that I also use. I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below the video. In fact, the third link below the video would take you to this page right here, where you can also take advantage of some major bonuses just by trading and depositing crypto. For example, you can get up to 10,000 USDT in trial fund bonuses and 8,000 USDT in actual withdrawable stablecoins just by depositing and trading crypto. So you might as well take advantage of that. Also, without making any deposits or any trades, just by making an account, takes 30 seconds to do this. You get a free $30 bonus on your account and 1 month free VIP3 upgrade. So very cheap trading fees over on 2bit and essentially free money from the exchange to get you started just by simply making an account using that third link below the video to 2bit. And once again, in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, and right now the Bitcoin dominance is still playing out the bullish divergence as predicted, which means continue to expect a slight bullish relief as a very likely scenario moving forward for the Bitcoin dominance. And obviously this has been still playing out as expected for a while now, for over a month now, obviously with the exception of that crazy scandal candle right here, pump and dump in the Bitcoin dominance. But for the most part, we have been seeing just a slight bullish relief in the Bitcoin dominance. And this is what I continue to expect moving forward over the next few days or weeks. And if we're taking a look at Ethereum on the 3-day time frame, right now the price of ETH is starting to once again break below this important area of support here, sitting in between around 3.9k to 4.1k. So obviously in terms of the larger price structure for Ethereum, it's really not looking too good. We are clearly starting to now form bearish price structure here on the 3-day time frame, forming lower highs and lower lows. The last time we saw something like this, in case you're wondering, was around end of 2024, entering into the start of this year. And of course, we saw what came next for the price of ETH over the next few weeks and months. And so at least for now, this is not a good sign to see on the 3-day Ethereum price chart. And if we're taking a look at the daily Ethereum price chart, it's possible we still have a bit of a bullish divergence here. We've not fully confirmed an invalidation signal. In fact, it's possible we could even slightly reconfirm the bullish divergence if we create a very, very slight lower low in the price while still maintaining higher lows in the RSI. But with that being said, of course, we're not really showing a lot of bullish momentum either way. So even if this bullish divergence continues influencing the price, at best, most likely just expect some choppy sideways price action, which is still one of the most likely outcomes from a bullish divergence. That's pretty much exactly what we've been seeing anyway over the last few weeks since this bullish divergence confirmed, mostly choppy sideways price action. And if we're taking a look at the shorter term here on the 8-hour time frame, right now in the immediate short term, we're pretty much perfectly bouncing and at least for now holding this area as support, sitting in between around 37.20 to 37.60 based on these previous lows right here. So still expect support in that area and potentially expect a little bit more support at around 36.70 to 36.80 based on these candle week lows right here. But for now, once again, a lot of support in between 37.20 to 37.60. And as for resistance, expect a lot of resistance in between 40.60 to 4.1k and especially in between around 42.50 to 42.80, which is exactly where the price rejected from at this local high, which I warned about since before we perfectly rejected from that area. And as I always say, of course, Ethereum, along with a lot of the major altcoins out there, will likely perform similar price action to whatever Bitcoin is doing. So for example, if Bitcoin comes in for another test of this support to head towards that liquidity that I just mentioned earlier, it's likely that if that happens for Bitcoin, that could potentially drag down Ethereum for another retest of this support coming soon as a likely scenario if Bitcoin, of course, does the same. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the 2-day time frame, right now Solana is still struggling and rejecting from this exact area of resistance, sitting in between around 190 to 200. So continue to expect resistance in that area. And if the price were to actually confirm a 2-day candle close above 200 and hold above that as support, in that situation, the next short-term resistance will be at give or take $209, and above that, expect a lot of resistance at roughly $230. But for now, once again, in between 190 to 200, that's the immediate resistance to watch out for. And if we continue a bit more of a rejection here, expect a lot of support in between roughly 170 to 175. And in terms of the short-term price structure, we're still to some degree in a bit of a sideways price range, as we can see right here, seeing relatively, of course, slightly lower highs and higher highs if we're looking between these highs or these highs, but relatively horizontal highs, not a massive trend in either direction, relatively horizontal lows, as we could see. The price is to some degree just range bound, bouncing around sideways in a bit of a range for now, which means in terms of the trend or the price structure, not really looking overly bullish or overly bearish. Of course, during that sideways price range, we can see short-term bullish moves and short-term bearish moves, but overall the trend is somewhat neutral. And as for support and resistance to watch out for, expect a lot of support really in between roughly 177 to 179, give or take, based on these lows right here, and a lot of resistance at roughly 200 and also at around 209, as I also mentioned earlier, based on these levels right here. And if we're taking a look at the price of XRP on the weekly time frame, obviously right now we're still playing out this massive bearish divergence on the weekly XRP price chart, so not much has changed over the last 1 day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at the daily XRP price chart, of course, we're continuing the perfect rejection from this exact resistance I warned about in between $2.60 to $2.70. And right now we're currently retesting and starting to bounce from this exact area of support that I've been talking about, sitting in between around $2.30 to $2.40. The moment we entered into that area, that was the exact moment we started to bounce and find support from the area of support. And so at least for now, it does seem that XRP is also to some degree range bound between support and resistance, as we could see right here, bouncing around relatively sideways, at least in the shorter term. In terms of the larger price structure on the daily time frame, technically we are within a bearish trend if we're looking at the larger trend here, forming lower highs and lower lows. But the shorter term situation is that we are currently range bound, bouncing around between support and resistance. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the daily time frame, it's a similar situation for Chainlink as what I just said for XRP, technically within a larger bearish trend, larger bearish price structure, forming lower highs and lower lows. But the somewhat short term situation is relatively neutral, as at least for now we are somewhat range bound between support and resistance, forming relatively horizontal lows and relatively horizontal highs, especially the two latest highs right here. First of all, expect a lot of support in between around 1520 to 1570, but above that expect more support at roughly 1650 to 1660, and a bit of resistance at roughly 1730 to 1750, and major resistance really in between around $19 to $20. But remember, overall, a lot of these major altcoins will likely perform similar to whatever Bitcoin is doing, if not slightly worse, because as I said earlier, the Bitcoin dominance will likely continue this slight bullish relief, which basically means Bitcoin's gaining market share. In other words, Bitcoin is outperforming a lot of the altcoins on average, which means a lot of the altcoins are just doing slightly worse than whatever Bitcoin is doing. Not every altcoin, some altcoins can be outliers, but a lot of the altcoins on average, expect them to be performing slightly worse, but somewhat similar to whatever Bitcoin is doing. So if Bitcoin has a bit of a pullback here, a lot of altcoins will likely have a slight pullback, maybe even a little bit worse than whatever Bitcoin does. But remember, it does not matter what direction the price goes. A lot of beginners make the mistake of thinking that we can only make money during bullish price action, during the really bullish times. Do not make that mistake. It doesn't matter what direction the price goes. It doesn't matter if we're bearish, bullish, bouncing around sideways. We can profit from all of that price action, which I show you how to do it very transparently here on this channel using my trading strategies, still making profits no matter what the price does here in the short term. Easy money right now. And so once again, if you want to take these trades for yourself, check out the exchanges linked below the video if you want to claim the massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can take these trades for yourself, no matter what the price does, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.